Hello. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Derek. I'm the youth guy here at Caneview Vineyard Church, and I am swapping out for Gabe. He's in California, hanging out with his family, having fun. I heard they went to Legoland. I'm secretly jealous. I mean, my son likes it. But anyways, it's a great place. I was thinking about you guys as college students. I went back to school, believe it or not. And it's called seminary. Some people call it cemetery. But I'm going back, and I took 2 classes. I signed up for 2 classes online, and I got the one, and I'm talking with Gabe, and I go, how many did you take over the summer, Gabe? He goes, just 1. I go, oh, God, you think I can handle it? And he goes, you probably can't. And you probably need to drop it. So I dropped it, and I got my money back at the last day, thank God. Because I am swamped. I have 1 class that I'm taking, 1 class, and I just don't remember how I did it. And so now I have a whole new meaning or feeling for you guys, once again, that are taking 12 to 15 credits. You guys are amazing. I don't know how you do it. But I give you all the honor there because it is a tough thing. I just remember I used to get by in college with not reading the textbooks, and now I actually kind of want to read now, which is pretty cool. So that's what I'm kind of getting into. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I just pray. I took a midterm just this last week, got an 80%. I was pretty proud of myself. Yeah, I'm pretty much a BC student. I never was the smart guy, never was. And of course, you'll find out more about me as you get to know me. But before we kind of get into tonight, I want to just pray for us, and then we'll start talking about mentorship, the art of mentorship. So Lord Jesus, I pray for tonight, and thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to share about who you are in front of people. And God, I pray that my message and my preaching, Lord, aren't with wise or persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, Lord, so that their faith might not rest on men's wisdom, but on God's power. So we thank you, Father. Amen. Speaking of college, So I went to Colorado State University, go Rams, beat the Buffs, okay? That's about all we can do. But hey, and so I was taking a calculus class and to get into the business school. That's what I thought I needed to do, so I took this calculus class. It was my freshman year, 2nd semester, and I show up into the lecture hall, if you will, to take the class, and there was probably as many chairs in that class as there is in this room. I think it was, not quite that many. We always like to exaggerate, but there's like 200 to 300. And my professor's name, or the teacher's name, I'm not even sure what you call him anymore, but his name was Jacques, and he was from Estonia. I don't even know where that is, but it sounds awesome. And so he said, he was leading it, and of course I could barely understand anything he said. And I don't like sitting in the front, and so I'm sitting in the back and trying to listen, and like, got it. And I'm a avid note taker because I don't know what I should know or remember for the test. So I'm just, flipping pages and writing notes, and I'm feeling good. I'm like, I can do this. So test time came around, exam time came around. There's a total of 4 exams, 25% of your grade for each exam, and I got an F. And I don't remember really whether it was an F minus. I'll just keep it at an F. And I couldn't believe. I go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I mean, business school is what I want to do, and if I can't pass this, I'm like on the first class to failure for like my degree. So what am I going to do? And of course, I reach out to my parents, and I said, hey, do you know anybody? I was reaching out to different people. Do you know anybody that kind of I don't have to pay because I'm a poor college student that can help me learn calculus? And this was a friend of theirs at the church. His name was Robert, ex-NASA engineer. He actually drove down to Fort Collins from Denver to Fort Collins to help me. And I remember coming for the first time, he goes, okay, well, show me what you guys are doing. I go, well, here you go. Here's what we're doing. And he goes, well, how would you solve it? I go, I don't know, that's why you're here. But he goes, well, how would you like to solve it? I go, I don't know. He goes, because I could think about 8 different ways to solve that one. I go, oh my God. But I go, okay, then the next logical answer is the easiest way. How else? That's what I want to know. And so he helped me through it, and he worked out everything in order to train me, to develop me. And I ended up getting A's on the rest of my tests, thanks to that guy, Robert. And of course, then I ended up getting a B in the class, which is awesome. And he is the one that pretty much allowed me into the business school, really. He gave me the ticket in there, because without that guy, I would have been screwed, definitely. I just couldn't do it on my own. But the problem was that it wasn't that I needed more information or more books. That wasn't it. There's plenty out there. We live in an information age. You can just Google whatever and try to figure it out. But it's more than that. It's learning really how to do it. And the only way that could happen was a life on life, someone coming in and saying, okay, this is how you apply this. This is whatever the heck these numbers mean. And he did that. But what sticks with me today is that this guy literally drove from Denver, came to Fort Collins. I actually didn't start realizing this till I graduated. I go, I gotta get this guy's address. I would never do that. I have to send him a Starbucks card or something to pay him back. But he came and he drove all of that way, and it still affects me today that he would invest in me as an individual, and let alone the subject of calculus. But when I think about it, what he really did for me more than anything is he showed me what it's like to invest in other people, and what that does to other people that we invest in. And what that does is it changes people. And it changed me, and I was just pondering that. I want to be like that guy. I just want to be someone who's a difference maker, someone who's pouring into the lives of other people, because really the only difference that we can make in this world is when we pour into other people, because it's all about people. And so we have, today's topic is be a mentor. And we have all benefited, I'm sure. I don't know if maybe you have or haven't benefited from a mentor at some point in your life. It could have been just a specific example, or it could have been a certain thing like calculus or a class, or it could have been, going through a death in the family, whatever that is. But maybe you had someone who played a significant role in your life. And we need mentors, but we need to be reminded what it's like and why we should be mentors. So let me remind you, the first reason that we need to be mentors, and when I say we, that's all of us, is because people make stupid decisions. If you think about it, really, think about to when you're a teenager. Come on. There you go. Okay. I heard someone the light bulb tick, and they're like, dumb. So think back to when you're a teenager, you made really, really stupid decisions. And in fact, that might have even been now. I remember looking out my college room window, and I was on the 8th floor and watching these guys push each other in a shopping cart. And they would two guys would just push it with the one guy in there as hard as they can, let go. And the guy would go flying until it rammed into the curb. And then he'd fly out and go into the bush, which I don't really see. But, again, as I was just watching, I just wanted to watch to see what was going to happen. But I didn't have time, and I go, that's dumb. But sometimes we need help processing those information and making the right decision. I remember when I was in high school and middle school, and we kind of liked to TP houses. I got involved with these guys. We were called the TP Patrol. We were really lame. But, so, we'd go on the side of the road because it was in Kansas, and we'd stand on the side of the road and wait for a car to come because it was really pitch black. And when they would come, there was another guy on the other side, and we would do this to see if they would slow down, because it's like we're pulling a rope, like we're going to stop the car. Again, I know you guys are saying dumb, dumb, dumb. Again, I understand that. I see that now in hindsight. But this is one of the reasons why we need mentors, is because we don't make the best decisions. There we go. Turn it on a positive note. This is somewhat scientific, believe it or not. Scientists say that the prefrontal cortex of our brain isn't fully developed to marry actions with consequences, which is why sometimes we don't make the best decisions when we're young. And here's the good thing, ladies, you're doing a lot better than us. Guys, yours clicks in it by the age of 18. Ours takes a few more years up and possibly to the age of 22. So, ladies, you've hung around the guys enough, and you're like, it's so stupid, but just give it time. He'll get it. He will man up, I guarantee you. Just patience. And for some of us guys, it doesn't go away. So, but the second thing is that we need to be reminded to mentor is when we're left to our own devices, it's not good. For example, if I was a really good dad this day, and I fell asleep on my couch watching my kids. And I have, at that time, I think Cameron was 6, Kason was 4, and Avery was 2. Of course, logically, I fell asleep on the couch. And I wake up to screaming and just sheer mayhem. Kason is jumping off the stairs and there's a wall right here. So if you don't stop, you bash into the wall. And of course, then he put a dent in the wall. Avery sliding down the stairs on a blanket. And then she went full face. She was crying. And then Cameron gave them the colors. And so they're coloring all over the walls. I go, oh my God, what are you guys doing? I can't leave you guys alone for 1 hour. They're like, wow, Derek, you haven't been to a parenting class lately. But no, you cannot. But that's what happens. I know now. It's, again, for me at 30, it's just clicking in actions, consequences. But when left to our own devices, not good. You can see it in children. It's really easy to see it in them. There is a book that was written called The Lord of the Flies. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it was a story about a group of British boys who were in a plane crash, kind of like Boy Scouts in a sense, stuck on an uninhabited island, and they tried to govern themselves because the pilot ended up dying. And of course, if you read the rest of the book or watch the rest of the movie, it has disastrous results. But that just goes to show you, even though that is fictional, is what human nature does. Is that, when left to our own devices, in a sense, it's not good, which can even build the case of why we need God. The third thing is tacit knowledge. This is why we need to be a mentor, is for tacit knowledge, or the need to transfer it. And what tacit knowledge, it's the kind of knowledge that's difficult to transfer via a textbook or I'm trying to think by means of, or maybe even verbalizing it, like on a podcast or something like that. It can't just be written. It has to be taught. And so this would be where maybe in a sense all your senses are engaged. So for example, if I were to tell you how awesome the ocean was, and I were to say, wow, and it's huge. It's like this building times 20 at least. Whatever, as far as you can see, and you can't even see land on the other side. It's so big in the sand. And if I were to describe that, right, that would only take you so far. But then if you actually touch and felt and sensed it for yourself, it would be nothing probably like what I described. Or, for example, it'd be the ability to, tacit knowledge is to teach someone how to speak a language, or in my case, how to do calculus. And that's that tacit knowledge. It's the idea that we can know more than what we can tell. The fourth one is we want to make our lives make a difference. We want our lives to make a difference. We do. Each one of us wants our lives to make a difference. We want to have an impact in the lives of other people in this world for good. I think it's when we watch videos that, it's like even what they're doing right now, a lot of businesses are doing this 1-for-1 campaign. You buy a pair of shoes, we'll give a pair of shoes. We'll buy a $500 blender, we'll give them a $500 blender. Whatever that is, right, is that when we see this, there's something inside of us like, yeah, God, making a difference, It's that piece. It's when you go to the place and they're like, hey, come eat ice cream today because so and so percent of our proceeds go to this. And there's something inside of us that says, I want to do more. And I'm not okay with just doing this the rest of my life. I have to figure out something to make a difference, to make an impact in the world in which we live. And the crazy thing is that Jesus then, if we take the last example of why we should mentor people, is Jesus is asking us to do it. But this is the most looked over, the most, and I would say is not happening at all in very, well, not at all, sorry, that's harsh, in very small quantities in the American church. And Jesus is asking us to do this thing called mentoring, but he calls it discipleship, because mentoring in a worldly sense doesn't have the Jesus element. Because with the Jesus element in it, we're actually making a difference not only for their lives now, but their lives for the rest of their lives and their life to come after they die, eternally. And a disciple is literally a follower of Jesus. That's really what it is. It's really hard to follow someone and not end up like them. And so we imitate him, carry on his ministry, and become like Jesus in the process. But we can't do that on our own. We need each other, which is why we were built for relationships. That's the way we were created. So the Creator says you were built for relationship, which drives a lot of our lives. So if we go to Matthew 28, and this is the end of Matthew, last chapter. Jesus has literally died, and this is 3 days later, he's been resurrected. And he starts appearing to the disciples. And this is what he says in 9 and 10. And it says, "And behold, Jesus met them and said, 'Greetings.' And they came up and took hold of his feet and worshiped him." Now that's really important, because most of us, I don't know about you, if you've seen those ghost movies, you like go to hug someone and you fall through them. But this isn't Jesus. They're saying literally they could grab his feet. So he's a physical, resurrected king. And he was resurrected, and he comes, and they fall at his feet, and they worship him. Verse 10, "Then Jesus said to them, 'Don't be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and they will see me.'" Now, this builds the case. So Jesus is starting to appear. He's like, "Hey, gather everybody, because I'm going to say something in Galilee. I'm going to tell you something that you're going to need to know." And I don't know about you, but there has been 0 people to this day that I know that has come back to life. And if they did, I would want to be like, what's he going to say? Or what's she going to say? What's the one thing that they're going to say that I need to know? Because if you're coming back from the dead and you're going to say something, it's going to be really important. I don't think you'll come and be like, "Hey, I like Twinkies." You know, it doesn't, you're like, "Oh man, so disappointing." You know, but Jesus says something much greater than that. He says this in verse 16 through 20 of chapter 28. "Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted," which tells me that there's maybe even more people at this place. "And then Jesus came and he said to them, 'All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations.'" Therefore, meaning come to the conclusion, this is it. This is what it's all about. "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." So Jesus is saying, go therefore and make disciples. It's delegated authority. It's an imperative. It's actionable. It's what Jesus is calling us to do for other people. What Jesus is not saying here, understand this. This is why just doing evangelism doesn't work. Just telling people, hey, will you just say like you accept Jesus into your heart and I'll be good, that we can leave you alone? Because that's not what it's about. It's something much deeper. If that was what it was about, this is what it would sound like. This is what Jesus would say. "Hey guys, you mind identifying yourselves with me in some way? don't worry, I don't actually care if you do anything or change your lifestyle at all. I'm just looking for people who are willing to say they believe in me and call themselves Christians, because I'm like, I'm Christ, and I was like, Christians, it'd be pretty cool. We'll do that. And that's the problem sometimes. And I think in the American church, we're just okay with that. But that's religion. Christianity isn't religion. It's a lifestyle. It's relationship with the Creator. And so Jesus doesn't want a following of people who are like, yeah, I'm a Christian, and then just live completely different from what he's calling them to live. It's something different than that. So Jesus, in the way the discipling is teaching, is like, this is how you live life. This is how you make sense of it. This is how to react or respond in certain situations. This is how to handle relationships. How to make the greatest impact in your life is to push people to me. I will work through you, through the Holy Spirit that's in you, and I will change the world through you. And that's what we push into discipleship. That's what it's all about. Jesus, in a sense, was just empowered by God, by all authority. And here's the craziest thing. This is what I find just mind-boggling. And then he delegates that power and the responsibility for us to go and make disciples for him. And I don't know, if you remember, he's telling this to his disciples, right? The same guys that ran with their tail between their legs when he was about to be crucified, when they came to get him. And when he came to be betrayed by Judas, they all ran. Peter denied that he even knew him. I don't know about you, but when I came back, I wouldn't be like, you guys are it. But what that says is Jesus sees something in us that we don't see in ourselves. And there is something in us that Jesus placed in us when you choose to follow him, where you change what you're doing, you change your life, you change the way you live, and it's about other people. It's others focused. The most important thing about discipleship as followers of Jesus is we're called and we're commanded. The problem is, I really would like to tell you it's a suggestion, but it's really not. And so for some of you, if you're not a Christian, you're off the hook. But if you say, yes, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus, you're on the hook. This is what Jesus is calling us to do. He didn't say when you pay off your school loans, you can go do this. Or when you get smart enough, you can go do this like me, right? He wasn't saying that, or when you pass your calculus class, whatever that is. No, we can do this right now because he lives inside of us. He dwells inside of us. And he can do immeasurably more than what we can ask or imagine. One thing I loved about Jesus is he really walked his talk. Under no circumstance did Jesus ever ask us to do anything he didn't do himself. That's the mark of actually a great leader. Anytime you see a leader doing exactly what they're asking you to do, then you have at least some inkling that they're a great leader. And this is what Jesus was. And he poured himself into his disciples. Now, is this a thing when you're pouring into people, they're all, is it this return on investment that you're looking for? Wow, if you put in 10%, you're going to get 100-fold. No, because that's not how people work. But Jesus poured into these 12. One of them betrayed him. But then he had this inner circle. And he brought them in whenever he could, and it wasn't over social media, but it was face-to-face, life-on-life, interaction, these disciples walking with Jesus, and he has these three guys, James, Peter, and John. And these guys in particular, Jesus would always kind of pull aside, and don't know why. All I know is it's really hard to pour into 12. It's much easier to pour into 3. And you can really get deep with those guys. And so he'd pull them out for special circumstance, always teaching them as they walked. And he would tell parables and talk to them. And then he would preach, like in a sense, at the temple. And he would do this. And then he would leave with them. And they would live life together. And someone would say, hey, I met this guy who did this. And he was like, here. And he'd just process life with them. And the first instance, I'm just going to share 2 of the instances, but the first one is during the transfiguration of Jesus. And this is found in Matthew 17. and this is 1 through 2. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, his brother, and led them up to a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. Because sometimes some things are better felt than tell. Because sometimes you can't just give someone a book and then hopefully they're going to figure life out, like me in parenting. Books don't always work. Right? I need someone to come alongside of me, to come in my corner and say, hey, I've done this before. I've been around the block. I don't know all the answers, but I can sure help you. And the sleepy thing is bad. But that's what Jesus does. So he's bringing these guys along. He's like, hey, watch what I'm doing. And he's bringing them aside. And then he says, the second example of this is in the Garden of Gethsemane before Jesus was crucified. And this is found in Matthew chapter 26, verses 36 through 39. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane. Say that 10 times fast. And he said to his disciples, sit here while I go over there to pray. And taking with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, which were John and James, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And he said to them, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me. And so Jesus just invited him, even in the most intimate moments of his life, where even as a mentor, as a leader, you'd be like, I don't want him to see this. I just want him to see the tough, the strong, me. But since Jesus experienced it all, he's bringing him, he's like, almost in a sense, guys, there's going to be tough stuff coming your way. And this is how you deal with it, is you go to the Lord and you pray. And you ask that he would just surround you. But what's even more important to understand is what happened to those guys after Jesus died, after he invested into them and discipled them. Peter became the rock that Jesus called about. He was the founder of the church, the future church. James was the leader of the Jerusalem church, wrote the book of James, which he also was encouraging us, which I love James. It's the most practical book in the Bible. So I'm a very practical person, so it makes sense to me. But it's be a doer of the word, not just a hearer of the word. And then we go to John. John went in to make a difference in his life as well. He wrote 5 books of the New Testament, was involved in churches, bringing people into Jesus. I mean, you can read about John's story in the Bible. I mean, if you take a look at why are you here today? Why does this church building even exist? That's because there's this one guy named Jesus who poured into just a few guys, and he discipled them, and he told them that they're going to change the world, and they did. And look at where we are right now. And that's the power of when Jesus calls us to disciple others, what we get to tap into, what we get to be a part of. See, the one thing that I love about the Bible is that Jesus' disciples weren't superheroes. They were ordinary men who changed the world. I mean, if they were going to paint Peter as a superhero, why would they say he denied that he knew Jesus 3 times? I mean, don't put that in there. You know, but the Bible is so real and honest and raw. That's what I love about it, because it means that I have a chance. It means that we have a chance, and we can screw up and it's okay. And we can strive on to better ourselves because Jesus is working in us and through us. The problem with our current society, and especially the American church, is we have lost the art of discipleship. And we have delegated it to a lesser form. So as being a leader in a church, first of all, I would say I apologize for what is now our current reality and playing a part in that. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So for example, somebody comes into the church and they're struggling with something. What do? We have a class for that. There's a self-help book you can read. I mean, I'm busy. I can't get involved, but we have self-help classes for that. And so we take it through. It's just like, I'm struggling with my teen. We'll send them to youth. They'll fix them. Or we say, oh, you know what, I'm dealing with a death. There's a class for that. I'm struggling with my money. There's a class for that. I want to learn about Jesus. Okay, there's a class for that. And we've delegated the responsibility of church members to this select few to lead these classes in a sense. What I'm not saying is our class is bad, absolutely not. But the problem of what it has done to our church is we have, by trying to feed into American consumerism out in the world, we tried to play that same game at the church. We want to offer more programs, more classes, more things for you to invest into so you can get fed or helped or whatever. The problem is that Jesus didn't say that. Jesus told us to send out my people. I have already empowered them with unique talents and abilities to serve the people of their city. They can do that. And that's where we need to be as a church. We need to be sending people out, and we need to be empowering you guys to know that you can make a difference in this church and in this community and in this world. Because I don't know about you, but I've been to class, and it was called calculus, and it wasn't really helpful. In fact, I don't really know how to use it in my life. But maybe if there was someone come alongside next to me and say, hey, I'm just here with you. Or when I was just dealing with the problems of my life at that time, if someone would just come alongside of me and like, I got your back, man. I have like a sucky time, I could pick up the phone and be like, I know who to call. Because this person is discipling me, they love me, they care for me. They're gonna be by my side. I have somebody in my corner because life's too hard to do it on our own. And when left to our own devices, we make bad decisions. And some decisions cost us a lot more than what we want them to. And so Jesus is calling us to this higher, much higher calling, to be a discipler, to go make disciples. As a church, we are wanting to move to that place. Our mission and vision is to grow disciples to reach the unreached. And all it's been in the last couple of years is just that, a mission statement that we post on a wall. But we want to start living it out. Because for me, even giving this sermon, I'm so convicted about what I've been doing that I know that what I've been doing isn't working. And I need Jesus to come and change that. In ministry, in life, in how I view other people, everything. Is that when a discipler is coming alongside of me, I have hope. It's that thing. And we're a long ways off. We're a long ways off from that peace. But as disciplers, we want to share the good news of Jesus to everyone in every area of our life, not just when they first come in. This is throughout their entire life. It's a lifetime thing. And we need help. We need help to make that happen. You know, for example, we were in church, and there was an opportunity, always opportunities to pray for people. God has given you spiritual eyes, even in this place. Even as when we engage in worship and do ministry time and all of that, and you may recognize someone, or God has already put someone on in your mind, and you know they need prayer. You're just hoping that maybe they come up and get prayer at the end of the night. But let's say they don't, or whatever. We can't delegate it to a select few. God put you in that seat to reach out to that person, and he's calling on you. He's just nudging on your heart. And when I've done that before, something that just happened to me and my wife last weekend, I know it's God because I don't just inherently love people that much. I'm not just as a stranger, I just want to pray for this random stranger who doesn't know me. You know what I mean? It's not in us, but God is in us, and he pushes that. And of course, then we go do that and pray for the people and engage them. And then they started crying, and you could tell that the Lord was just reaching out and engaging them where they were. But that's not really the win. The win is what happens after that. That's a win, but it's more than that. It's after that, it's like, here's my number. If you need anything, please call me. We want to help you through your time of need. I can't send them and say, hey, looks like you're crying. You might have some, looks like you're struggling with, I don't know, some depression. You should go to the depression class or whatever. We can't do that. We come alongside of them and we love on them and we disciple them all the way through. And then somebody else came and they were like, hey, you want to be a part of my small group? The win is that those people were being looked after. It wasn't just this experience that they had at church where they felt God's presence and then it's good luck for the rest of the week or whenever you come back and hopefully maybe you'll have the same experience again. But we can't do that. We can't do that anymore. We have to start making disciples who make disciples who make disciples. We have to be the ones who are empowered to do that. You are already empowered to do that. Jesus has said, all authority on heaven and earth has been given to me, and now I release you. You have that same power to do it. Go do it. Change the world. Notice, Jesus isn't walking around where people can see him because he's left it up to us to do it, which is awesome because we can change the world. So if we take a look at how can we start this? How can we start this? Practical steps. Pray for disciplers. 1. First thing we can do is pray for disciples and disciplers. Jesus says in Matthew 9, you may have heard of this, it's called the Matthew 9 prayer. And Jesus went throughout the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, healing every disease and every affliction. And when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Because Jesus could only take the 12. I mean, wherever he could, there could be 5,000 people wherever they walk. It's just not possible. We have to delegate that responsibility. We have to delegate that responsibility. And the harvest, this is what Jesus says, then they're like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Please, therefore, pray earnestly for the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. And that's what I pray on you guys, because I believe that you guys are the ones that are going to be changing the world in which we live. The second thing is this needs to be intentional. I don't know about you, but there's not a lot of people that just walked up to me and said, that I just walk up to them and be like, hey, you look like you need to be discipled. You know, it doesn't work that way. But we have to be looking out. We have to be, wow, does this person want to know more about Jesus? Yes, then just say, hey, do you mind meeting once a week, once every other week, whatever? I'll meet with you, and let's just do life together. And come alongside someone and do that. And have someone mentor you or disciple you. You need that too. If you're going to be pouring into others and your bucket's pouring out, you need to be poured back into. And that's where, when we're all discipling, everyone's getting discipled. Everyone's getting discipled. And then the third piece that I can give you is model discipleship after Jesus. Just read the Bible. What did Jesus do? Go back to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Just read and pick out those things that Jesus did with his disciples in which he made an impact. Now, I know most of you are saying, well, I'm not God, and Jesus was God. But that's okay, because you have been given the power and the authority by Jesus Christ with the Holy Spirit that dwells in you to make a difference in the lives of other people. God has called us to make a difference, and he's raising up a generation of people who desire to see the world change. You know, I don't know about you, but I want to see my friends' lives change. I want to see my family's life change. I want to see the world change around me. God, use me. Use me to make an impact. I don't want to just be someone who just everybody forgets about, you know? And it's just like, man, I just went into the grave. My life was a blur. Nobody remembers that. I want to make a difference. Where, in a sense, we're no longer doing church, but training other people to do church. If I could just share with you real quick, my vision for youth here that God has just started to impress on me, and showing me what we used to do in youth ministry is we used to draw a crowd. And the problem with drawing a crowd is we're no different from the other crowds that are gathering outside of this particular building. And when you do that, the focus gets lost. It just becomes this thing that you experience and you leave and you disengage. And that's what we taught students for at least 5 years since I've been here. And I've told them about Jesus, and I've done my best to do that. But the problem is that I haven't heeded the call to make disciples. I've impacted maybe 5 lives of students, but I can't do any more than that. And so I try to hang out with more students and more students and more students to try to make an impact, but it wasn't. And I couldn't quite figure it out until I started understanding Jesus is like, no, you teach, you disciple other people so that they can disciple other people and make a difference. And so I no longer want to draw a crowd. I'm not interested in drawing a crowd. I'm interested in bringing people into our service. And our youth service is the front door for people to experience Jesus. That's all it is. It isn't a place for students who've known the Lord forever to grow. It's not that place. It's more milk than it is meat. And so when they come in, we want them to understand this is the front door, that your friends would hear the life-changing message of Jesus in a comforting environment where they feel like they belong. That's your goal, Christian student. When you bring kids in, that's what I want you to know. You come here on Wednesday, not for you, for others. We're others focused. Because then what we're doing with you is we're putting you in a discipling relationship where people are on you like white on rice, and they will love you. They're going to be at your homecoming dance to just see your pictures. They're going to be there when you graduate. They're going to be there for your birthday party. They're going to be there when your mom dies. They're going to love on you, and they're going to infuse your life with Jesus, something that goes beyond mentorship, something that goes beyond what this world can offer through classes and self-help books. This is what God is calling us to do. And so for me, I have to change what we're doing. And I get down, I'm like, oh, the crowd's small. And then I just remember all the time, it's just like, what happened to that kid? I remember saying that in our team meetings after we'd recap a service. We'd be like, I don't know. Oh, God, I haven't seen him in months. But who knows where that kid is and who knows what they're up to? We don't know because we didn't raise people up and teach them that they have to go disciple these kids so that there's someone looking after them. So every single kid in our ministry is being looked after and sought after by the love of Jesus Christ. That's our goal, is to move them. Not everybody's going to be in discipleship. Some kids are at the front door. I just had a kid yesterday or last Wednesday, and he came up to me and he goes, man, Derek, he's just been coming for a month. And he goes, I just want to know more about Jesus. And I'm like, that is awesome. I have no one for you who can teach you that. I have a class. But I haven't raised disciples to come alongside of you. And I didn't tell him that, but I didn't know what to do. I was like, man, that's awesome. Let me pray for you. I'm just hoping that someone steps up and disciples that kid. Because I don't know where he's going to be if we don't engage now. So my call out tonight is that we need disciplers. I don't know about you. Are you being discipled? And where do you go for that? And how do you, who's living your life? There's even people in here. Kirk did a call for people at the 6 p.m. when we changed it to our Spanish service, and he said, we're going to be switching services, but we need adults in this place to be mentoring and discipling college students. And then I need college students to get engaged in the lives of teenagers. You guys know what it was like. Hasn't been that many years. It's terrible, and it gets worse every year. There is not a day in my life where I'm like, man, I just wish I could go back to high school or middle school. I mean, right? This is where we need to go. We need to go back. And so I am so serious about this that I'm willing to change our youth night to a completely different night. If you would entertain the idea of pouring into a life of a student. And so I would love to ask you at the end of this service, if you would just come up to me. It's not a commitment or anything. All I'm asking you for, if I said, if this fell on a different night than when you go to church and your community and your family happens, would you entertain the idea to disciple a teenager? Because if I get enough yeses, the data tells me yes, but that's not enough to pull the trigger because this is a big decision. But if I get enough people who said yes, then I will absolutely change it because I know that even if I have a youth group of 10 kids, that every single kid in that youth group is being looked after and they're going to be difference makers in the world in which we live. That's what I want to be a part of. That's what I'm all in for that, man. I will give my life to that. This is what we want to do as a church. We want to grow and develop people. Is there anything wrong with classes? Absolutely not. But the problem is we've taken the power away from you guys and delegated it to the select few, and I'm sorry. Hear me out and hear me now. God has called you. He has empowered you to go and pour into the life of someone else. I can't tell you. I was just on Facebook today. I try to get on it like once a month. And I saw this one girl who was part of this super small youth group. There's like 3 of us leaders, and I remember she came for the first time, had no idea who Jesus was. And we started introducing her to Jesus. Her parents actually didn't even want her to go to church. And of course, then she engages with a leader who invests into her life. And she's making videos right now about how God can change your life and how he's impacted her life. And now she's traveling the country doing that. I mean, when I watched that video, I just wanted to cry. Wanted to cry. I'm like, man, I want more of this. I want more of these types of life-changing experiences. I want my life to impact, to change, to be a discipler for Jesus and to point everyone to him, because I know when we push everybody to Jesus, they'll be okay. This is what I'm asking us to do. Because at Canyon View, at Kaleo, in youth ministry, we are not interested in drawing a crowd. We're interested in drawing to people into our front door to get them to hear the message of Jesus. And then as we push them closer, we want to have someone with them who has a lifelong relationship to tell them about how Jesus works in their life, push them closer to him. When we invest in people and discipling, and we're empowered by Jesus, we actually see the change that we want to see. So I'm going to pray. Jesus, thank you. You're so good to us, God, that we have the ability to empower others, that you speak through us. It's mind-boggling. We can actually tonight speak life into someone that could possibly, through you, change the trajectory of their entire life. We could do that tonight by what you do through us. God, I pray that you would empower your people once again. You would lift them up. You would encourage them. You would give them strength. And I pray the Joshua 1:9 prayer of them, be strong and courageous, for I will be with you wherever you go to the ends of the earth. God will empower you to say, to do the right things in that discipling relationship. And as a church and as a leadership team, that we would empower you to go and make an impact, one life at a time. God, empower them. Let them know how you so want to work through them to change their life of that person. You might have even placed that person on their heart tonight. That's it. That's you. God, just empower them. That's me. Let them say, Lord, that's me. This is you. This isn't something I'm making up, God. You've empowered us to do this. Let's go make an impact. Thank you, Jesus. We love you. Amen. Real quick, before we engage in worship, as you stand with me, as we jump into just engaging with God, and this is where we respond to what God is doing. If you don't have someone discipling you and you want that, will you let us know? I don't know. I can't tell you that we have anybody for you, but I tell you what, I'm going to do my hardest to find someone for you. And if you want to disciple someone else, I have a line of teenagers waiting that need you. So I pray that God would be with you, that he would bless you this week as you live your life. Thank you.